Hey, y'all, I'm Ebony K. Williams here, host and attorney extraordinaire. Welcome to Holding Court, where we analyze the very latest in legal headlines, the ones that got all the streets talking. You know what we do? We dig deep into how the courts impact the culture. We break it down, going straight from gavel to your news feed. And every week, we keep it 100. Right, Dustin Ross?
That's right.
Dustin Ross, my lovely. How was your weekend?
My weekend was incredible. A lot of time spent on the move. I'm in the kitchen cooking, working on a new idea right now. So
Okay, let him
I've
cook.
kind
Let
of
him
had my
cook.
head down. Yeah, how was yours, E?
Well, I'll totally chill, but I have
Mm-hmm.
noticed some new assets coming up on LinkedIn. I'm like, okay, I'm smelling the aroma coming in
You know
from the
what's up.
kitchen. Mm-hmm.
You know what's on the horizon. So yes, very excited. Just had my head down working this weekend.
I love it. I
What
love it.
about
I
you,
love it.
E?
Running up behind that baby. That's all. That's it. That's all. That's it. That's all.
Lady Liberty.
Lady
Okay,
Liberty running
running
the house.
things as she should
Listen,
be.
listen.
Yes.
I was on call 24/7, but it was all fun. We had a good time. Took in some HGTV vibes. Actually, you know what I watched, and I know if you haven't seen it yet, you will absolutely fucking love.
What's that?
Number one on the call sheet,
I keep hearing good things about that. I keep
baby.
hearing good things about that.
As
Yes.
the thespian that you are, the elite
Yeah.
performer that you are, Dustin. It's out, and I've only gotten so it's broken down into two parts. There's part one, which are the actors, part two
Mhm.
are the actresses. So I will be getting to those ladies tonight. But that part one, oh my
Mhm.
God. I just so
Eye-opening.
eye-opening, and from people, it really, here's what I appreciate. Let me tell you what I don't like is when
Okay.
something is billed as a premium product and then it's featuring mediocre talent. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, okay,
Mhm.
if it's number one on the call sheet, it's
I wanna see
giving.
some motherfuckers
I
that are
want to
number
see
1 on
number
the call
one.
sheet. Yeah.
Yes, I don't want to see no number twos or number threes.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
and this is giving. It's Morgan Freeman, Don
Mhm.
Cheadle, the GOAT Denzel. We get into the retrospect of Sidney Poitier. They do
Ooh.
right. They finally fucking do right by the legend that is Eddie Murphy from a
Ooh.
cinematic era. Like, God knows we love Eddie as a comedian, but don't
Yeah.
fucking play with this like he was not the biggest movie star in the world for an era. Not the biggest black movie star. He was the biggest movie star in the world
For a long
for
time,
for
yeah.
a whole fucking era. And not for nothing. I could say a lot of things about Will Smith, but it really kind of made me put some more respect on Will Smith's name in
I
terms
love
of
that.
how he elevated the genre of black films being respected in the global market. Like
Mhm.
that narrative was so strong of, yeah, y'all are great and talented and we love y'all for what y'all do. But studios, we can't make money on y'all outside the US. And Will Smith has something to say about it. And that's when we get Men in Black. But even before that, Independence Day.
Mhm.
And really
Blockbuster
before that,
films. Yeah.
Bad Boys 1.
Hell yeah.
It's just great. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Imma watch
Congrats.
that. I'm definitely gonna watch that. You have officially sealed the deal for me. Imma watch that.
Yeah, you're gonna like that. Okay. All right. We're gonna get into this docket, jurors. We do have an update. Man, this Diddy trial is around the corner, baby. This
Yeah.
Diddy trial is starting in a month, essentially, May 12th.
Mhm.
We are set to start trial date for Sean Combs right here down the street from us here in New York Federal Court. So we will get into the latest updates. There are a couple of updates we want y'all to know about jurors as we walk into this trial. Number one is that Cassie is actually willing to be named. And a lot of times when it comes to the witnesses that are testifying for the prosecution particularly in these sexual assault cases, the public will not know the identities of some of the alleged victims and prosecution witnesses. But Cassie said, put her name on it. Put her name on it.
Mhm.
She's putting her name on it. And I think that does something. And I'll get into that in the analysis. So we also have some superseding indictments that have come Sean Combs' way. We'll give y'all the tea on that and tee this up so y'all can have a trial preview because it's coming sooner rather than later. And then we'll wrap up this docket with the latest on Young Thug. A lot of y'all saw and were tagging Dustin and I in the comments that it was looking
Mhm.
like might get snatched up. It was looking that way, but the judge made a very speedy decision. Was nothing slow about her, and decided not at this particular time. Young Thug's parole will not be revoked, but she did give him some warning words, Dustin. So we want to
Mhm.
get into how he needs to be on his P's and Q's for the foreseeable future.
Let's get into it.
Okay, so now we all obviously know that really the genesis of the legal horrors that have come the way of Sean Combs in the last few years all started with the Cassie lawsuit. So this was the
Mhm.
civil action, right? We all kind of probably remember where the hell we were. I'll tell you exactly where I was when people started texting me about the lawsuit complaint. When we,
Mhm.
I will tell you exactly where I was. I was having a early dinner by my lonesome.
Mhm.
I was in Midtown, what's the Italian chain that's like a kinda high-end chain?
Are you talking about, with
It's right by Dream Hotel in Midtown.
yes,
Right by yeah.
Serafina?
Serafina. Yep.
Yeah, yep.
Yep, I was at Serafina right there on the corner, having me a delicious Diablo pizza
Mhm.
with an Aperol spritz and
Mhm.
an arugula salad.
That's a
Because
peaceful moment.
I believe in dating myself,
Mhm.
okay?
Absolutely. I
Oh,
trick on you, trick on
Imma
that's when it's
trick on
okay to
E.
be a trick,
Imma trick
okay?
on E if
That's
I don't
right.
trick on nobody
That's
else.
right.
So, that's what I was doing when, of course, just a snowball effect of, "Oh my god, have y'all seen this shit about Puff?"
Man,
Where
what?
were you? Because I
I
remember
was
I think I called you. I
we
was
definitely spoke. We
Yeah.
definitely spoke when that happened. If memory serves me correctly, I was at home. I just remember I was doing something else, and I remember being just having an avalanche of messages, seeing all the headlines. People could not believe what was going on
Mhm.
because those who were perceptive enough, you know what I'm saying, to understand the totality of what that lawsuit meant.
And what was to come.
Right. People were really
Yeah.
starting to shit bricks when they saw that, like, wait a minute, this is really going to open the door to a lot of shit. And we
Yeah.
had not seen Puffy really held account. We hadn't really seen any of the rumors and the scuttlebutt that you've heard for years. We hadn't seen it actually
We hadn't seen any
realized.
evidence. Yeah, we
Nothing.
hadn't seen it was just rumors, whispers, word on the street.
Mhm.
And not to Monday morning quarterback this too much, Dustin, but before we
Mhm.
get into these updates, I just wanna reframe for everybody, because that was November 2023 when that lawsuit hit and went public. It's
Damn, it's
right
been that long?
it's been that long. It was actually right before my embryo transfer. I done had a whole goddamn baby, and she about to be 8 months
Wow.
since that lawsuit hit. Yes. Yes,
Wow.
because I had my embryo transfer at the end of November 2023. That's why I was eating my pizza and my salad, getting ready
Yeah,
for it.
yeah, yeah. Okay, okay, okay. Wow, Ebony.
Oh my god. Yeah. So, remember, we all remembered within 24 hours, 48 hours at best, the whole shit was settled. Remember, it was like as soon as we got through reading that long ass complaint of all of those hellacious, egregious, detailed allegations, the next thing we heard, it was literally settled. Ink
Mhm.
was dry. Case was closed. Civil case was closed. And I remember, my legal group chats and I were like, well, damn, Negro, if you were going to do that, why did you fail to settle on what we have to believe were the numerous opportunities that Cassie and her legal team gave you to settle this before they went and filed this lawsuit?
Absolutely. That was
And
the
I have
piece.
to right, and I have to wonder, Dustin Roth, had he and his team, Puff and his legal team, decided to settle the Cassie civil lawsuit pre-litigation, right before,
Mhm.
because once that's what triggers the litigation. Everything before that, trust me, like I'm sure there have been months and months and months, if not years, years plural is a stretch, but probably at least 6 to 12 months worth of phone calls back and forth between their legal teams. Mr. Combs, we have our ducks in a row. We're ready to pull the trigger on this lawsuit. We're going to give you a final opportunity if you would like to come to the table, negotiate a pre-trial, pre-litigation deal, settlement of sorts
Mhm.
that will maintain confidentiality and provide some justice for our client. And clearly, the answer was no, 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 only for you to turn around 24, 48 hours and say yes. Had they taken that opportunity pre litigation, Dustin, I wonder if we would be here today. Meaning, I
No.
wonder if any of these criminal cases would have even been launched.
No, because I think people were intimidated and afraid to come forward. Some of the victims that have credible stories, I
Hmm.
think they were intimidated and afraid to come forward because
True.
it's such a David and Goliath moment, right?
Mm,
Like you're so
yeah,
small in comparison to his power and access and his resources and access to
sure.
resources and
Sure.
the network of people, you know, the whole thing that he built. So a
Sure.
lot of motherfuckers was scared into silence. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Once Cassie kicked in the door waving the 4-4, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Then here comes everyone else feeling empowered and emboldened and more comfortable to speak out. Some telling the truth, allegedly some that are not telling the truth. You know what
Mhm.
I'm
Well,
saying?
some things have been dismissed. Yeah.
And then we
Yeah.
just have a slew
Yeah.
of people who think they have a chance at some sort of vindication, justice,
Yeah.
payment,
Yeah.
something. And so everybody's coming out. They feel, strength is in numbers. It's
Strength is in
classic.
let's
Yeah.
talk about strength is in numbers.
Mhm.
Well, let me give y'all the big headline here, which is that Cassie is putting her name on it. She's saying
Uh-huh.
she is testifying at this upcoming trial, which will begin in May. She's showing her face. She's providing her full legal name, Cassandra Ventura,
Mhm.
and she's just putting that on it. We know her as the most famous of the known accusers, and as you say, Dustin, it was just such a shock because we had seen what appeared to be, I guess, the love story, certainly their
Mhm.
relationship,
Oh,
for the better
yeah.
part of 10 years.
And
This was
believed in it, wanted them to make it, wondered why they weren't making it. I didn't mean to jump over you either,
no,
Ebony,
go
so I'm
ahead. You
sorry for
felt the
cutting you
way. You
off.
felt the way. Yeah.
Because I always liked Cassie. From the
Right.
moment she came out, she just had this soft, airy voice, and she sang over dope ass beats.
Yes, you
People
did.
gave her a lot of flack for not being a what we
Powerhouse
traditionally.
vocalist.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But it wasn't about that. She had style. She had breathy, airy vocals that actually sounded good, and a lot like the work that she's done. She's done some songs with Solange, and
Mhm.
Solange has, as a producer, has worked with her and featured her on some of her stuff.
Right.
And there's range there that artistically a lot of
Mhm.
people didn't get. I always got it. So
Yep.
once they got together, and it's no secret, I've been tremendously influenced and impacted by Diddy's work, what he's
Sure.
done, what he meant for like black niggas
Well,
that
you're a black man.
want to
You're
win
you're a
and
black man in America who lives in New York currently. Of course you have been.
of a certain age, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So the
Yeah.
barriers he broke, it meant a lot. So that was tough for me. I've always loved Cassie. It was just tough. That was tough for me.
Yeah, to see that. Yeah, and Imma tell you, I never liked them together. Imma tell you
Mhm.
why. It's everything you said, but I just took the opposite interpretation.
Mhm.
I like
Mhm.
Cassie too, and y'all know I'm old head over here. I like the
Mhm.
powerhouse vocalist. Give me the Whitney, the Fancy
Mhm.
Features.
Mhm.
Give me that. Give me the Aretha shit.
Mhm.
But I also made space for this literal breath of fresh air that was this lovely young woman who seemed to be really there was something really pure about her. And
Mhm.
it was some levity to it. It was a moment. It was a vibe. And I always felt, Dustin, even before there was any whispers of abuse or infidelity or any of that with her and Puff, I felt like he was holding her back. And I
Mhm.
felt like it was punitive. I didn't
Mhm.
feel like it was a business decision, which I could respect,
Mhm.
right? Like,
Mhm.
"Hey, baby, I love you. You my woman regardless, but this ain't really the time for your sound right now." I never felt it was about
Mhm.
that, Dustin. I always felt he had all the power in the world to make her at least as big as Sierra, at least,
Yeah.
if not bigger, and that he made a strategic decision to essentially keep her in her place, to keep her as a background player. And I never liked that.
I
So
can see that.
yeah, for that reason, I thought he was a hating ass Negro, to be honest with you.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, and I never liked their relationship in that capacity. But that's neither here nor there. Here's the tea. We know ultimately that per Cassie and per the tape that we saw, and I'll get to the tape in a second because it's relevant to the legal issues here. We know that something and many things were very rotten in Denmark. That this was no happily ever after, and that it was a horrific, horrific journey for this young lady, and apparently potentially many others. So Cassie is right now, Dustin, the only name we know. But we
Mhm.
do know that at least 3 other of the alleged victims will be testifying, and this I wanna name this jurors. They will be testifying, and although we don't know their names as of right now, and I have to not believe that the judge will allow this case to be televised or too much written about it because those witnesses have asked that their identities remain secret, okay, for their own
Mhm.
protection. We could all imagine why they would want that
Oh
to be
my
the case.
god, yes.
Yes, especially
Absolutely.
with the nature of the allegations and the nature of what people have said Puff is capable of, right? So they will remain anonymous to us. But let me tell you who will know their faces and names, and that's Sean Combs and his legal team. In fact, they already know them. Per
Mhm.
the Sixth Amendment, of these United States Constitution. Puff he's the accused, right? He gets a constitutional right, Dustin, to confront his accuser. He gets to do that as a defendant, and that's right. So he will get to see their faces. They will have to stand there, swear on us with their hand on the Bible that they're telling the truth and nothing but the truth. So help them God, and
Mhm.
tell their story and be
Mhm.
cross-examined by Sean Combs' legal team,
Right.
which is nothing to play with.
Right.
So this will be teased out in real time. So if you're keeping count, that's at least 4 witnesses. Cassie, which we know when she's saying, I don't need to be anonymous. I have been the face, basically, of this prosecution, and she has been, of this pursuit of justice against this man from day one, and I will continue to stand in that posture. So Cassie will be known. She will not be anonymous. Up until this point, though,
Mhm.
she had been known as victim 1, but now
Mhm.
she's saying, "It's okay, put my name on it. I'm Cassie, and I'm here, and I'm not fucking around." Victims 2, 3, and 4 so far will remain anonymous. But again, Puff and his legal team, they know their names, they know exactly what their claims are, and they will be prepared to cross-examine.
Yeah, and Cassie's cooperating at this point because I think there's a level of I don't give a fuck no more that
Right.
exists on our end. Cassie's been vindicated.
Yes.
Cassie has been vindicated not only by Puffy and his team agreeing to that settlement in the first damn place so fast and quick, you know what I mean, and changing their tune in that way
Yeah.
so quickly once the litigation began,
Right.
right?
Right.
And now all, Cassie also had gotten an overwhelming amount of support
Mhm.
from people, from, entertainers, from her
Yes.
colleagues and peers. You know, she looks good, she's pregnant with her 3rd child right now with her husband.
Yep.
They about to have a little boy, she's already got the 2 daughters. Cassie is in a
Oh, that's
place where
great.
she don't give a fuck no more. And so if y'all need me to do this shit with my name, put a name on it, I
That's
think
it.
that she's willing, you
Yeah.
know? And that's gotta be hella freeing to have held so much for so long and been so impacted for so long by
So
trauma, so
shamed.
literally traumatized and
Yeah.
shame, full of shame. That's gotta feel hella good to sit in a motherfucker's face and be like, "Bitch, you did this shit to me,
Yep.
and you ain't doing it to no damn body else, and it stops today."
It
That's a
stops today.
huge
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
So, good for her.
Yeah,
Good
and
for
it's
her.
helpful, it's very helpful to the prosecution too, Dustin, like,
Hell yeah.
obviously, yeah, they're gonna respect the anonymity and protect the privacy and maintain the safety of their witnesses. They are
Mhm.
responsible for that as the prosecutors. Um, but shit, when you have a witness that's willing to remove that cloak of
Mhm.
invisibility and stand front facing in the public square, if you will, and point the finger and name the name and say he did it and I'm here to tell it to the world, that is a powerful dynamic for the prosecutors here. It
I
does make
have
a
one
difference.
more question for you
Yes,
too,
darling.
Ebony.
Yes.
So, okay, Cassie has already they've settled. She's received their
The
settlement.
civil, the
The
civil. Yes.
civil part, the
Yes.
civil
Yes.
piece is settled.
Yes.
Now she's been asked to testify in the criminal portion of the case in his trial, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Ish after she completes her testimony, is Cassie done with this situation legally, or can she be pulled back into this shit somehow, some way? What does that look like for
What
her?
does
Can
that
she
look
just
like?
move on from this after
That's
that point,
brilliant.
or what?
That's brilliant. So the reality is she could get pulled back in. Let me tell you
Mhm.
how. There's one scenario that comes to mind. It's a really, really thoughtful question. I'm glad you challenged me with it. In terms of her legal claims against Sean Combe, they are expired as of the
Mhm.
settlement, right? So we talked about that. So that really ended back in November 2023 when
Mhm.
his ass turned around with a quick settlement. So she will not be able to get any more money. She will not be able to make any more civil claims against Sean Combs as they relate to these matters.
Mhm.
Um, where she could find herself still having to quote deal with this is if there two things I could think of.
Mhm.
Number one, if there are state charges, like if any state, because these are the federal, this is a federal case, as we've been talking about since day one. It is possible that a state, any of the states that we know he's been dealing in, Florida, the Miami house,
Mhm.
California, the Beverly Hills house,
New
or
York.
the state of New York. Those are all outlined. Now, I think it's unlikely, Dustin, because I have to believe that the statute of limitations around all
Mm.
three of those states would create some problems for those state prosecutors' offices, right? So that's why I believe that they probably all, because I'm sure those were conversations, let's be
Mhm.
clear. And I'm sure that anybody that that had an opportunity to bring state charges talked about it, and I have to believe that they were told to stand down probably by the federal agents who said, "We got this. We have more
Mhm.
resources. We're better positioned to be successful. We got it,"
Mhm.
But the other scenario is, and we've seen, like, I think it was just last week, there was another civil lawsuit filed
Mhm.
against Sean Combs. We didn't bother
Mhm.
covering it here because we'd be here all day if every time somebody said that Negro's name, we came back on the
Yeah.
mic. Okay.
Yeah.
But we'd like to handle these things in bulk in these ways on the docket,
Mhm.
right? So last week, another civil claim against him. I think it was a former employee, I believe. Either way, that person could subpoena Cassie. That
Mhm.
person could call her as a kind of supporting witness to demonstrate pattern behavior and to add to the believability and the what do we say? Just a compounding witness, that type
Mhm.
of thing.
Mhm.
So those are
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
so I can see a scenario where she's minding her business, she's with her husband, she's enjoying her three beautiful children, and she goes to the mailbox, opens the mail, and damn, and maybe it's that
Yeah.
damn. Maybe it's awesome. Another opportunity for me to stand for justice. It could be that, but I could see her being um subpoenaed or brought in from the perspective of being a witness to someone else's civil litigation against Combs.
Okay.
Because those are not over. Please know that. Those are going to keep
Yeah.
coming no matter what happens, by the way, in this federal trial that's about to start, whether he's acquitted, whether he's found guilty, whether they make a plea deal. The civil piece never stops.
Mm.
It never stops. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's that on that. So y'all, again, stay tuned. Oh, I did want to tell y'all this. So one of the reasons that Cassie already was on our mind about this, for other than the lawsuit itself, was of course we can never forget that we've all seen that horrific CNN tape, the videotape
Yeah.
of Sean Combs beating. And I don't really know that we have to even say allegedly at this point because the fool ass
Mhm.
got on social media and admitted as much that he was
Mhm.
the culprit there and that all that shit he was talking about them excuses and bad place and
Mhm.
all that, which was again from his legal counsel standpoint. Get off your phone, sir. Please. The fuck are you doing? Anyway, we saw that horrific beating of that woman. He's in a towel and she's running out barefoot and just all the things that we saw. So we knew that Cassie had to be one of the victims because that video, while not the beating we saw in that video, y'all, I do want to be clear here. That is not a part of the actual charges here because that happened in California and that was subject to the state statute of limitations in the state of California, which at best was 3 years or 1 year, and they had both expired. So there was no criminal charge related to that video, as horrendous as it was.
Mhm.
However, the federal prosecutors in this case
Mhm.
did cite the video, okay, in the indictment. So it made
Mhm.
reference to it.
Mhm.
And remember, let's go back to when he was first indicted on the criminal piece, Dustin, which was September of 2024.
24. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
almost a year after the original Cassie civil lawsuit was filed and settled. So almost a year after that is when we got the massive raids of the house and we saw Sean Combs carried away in handcuffs and he was indicted federally on the original charges. Now keep in mind, originally it was just a couple charges, literally two. It was one count of racketeering conspiracy and sex trafficking. But remember, we went through that indictment with a fine tooth comb, Dustin Ross, right here on this
Yes,
show,
we did.
right? And remember
Comprehensively.
extensively, right? And
Yeah.
remember, I clocked, and other legal colleagues of mine and other platforms clocked that this prosecutor, and at the time that was the black man, Damian Williams, right, who has since resigned from that position. Damian Williams was basically calling out,
Mhm.
asking, begging, inviting any other potential victims of Sean Combs,
Mhm.
please stand up.
Yeah.
Please stand up because we are still basically taking not applications per se, but we are still looking to add to this situation, to add to this case.
Yeah.
And people answered the call. Clearly, that's how we end up with these not one, not two, but three superseding indictments since the original indictment.
I mean, that
Um,
phone's still ringing.
it's
You know what I'm
it
saying?
literally
Still
probably
ringing.
still raining. Listen, so in January, in January of 2025, we got two more unnamed victims that were added to the indictment. Then in February of 2025, we got that second superseding indictment, this time charging Diddy with forced labor, okay, and making employees. So the employee component was added, engaging in sex acts. Then just last week, so yeah, he's had a superseding indictment, Dustin, every month of this year.
That is
Um, isn't
crazy.
that crazy? That's absolutely crazy. So the third one we got last week is saying that there is an additional sex trafficking count being added and an additional count of transporting to engage in prostitution as related to victim two. So that was one of the existing victims, but apparently maybe they got some more evidence to support one of her claims. That's why you're seeing these superseding indictments coming at this late stage of the game.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn, damn, damn.
Yeah, yeah. So what's his defense doing, right? Well, they are
Mhm.
active. They're filing motions to dismiss. They're filing motions questioning the evidence. They're gonna throw everything they got at it because they already have been, right? Hence the million request for bond that never got satisfied. Those were denied at every turn. I think he ended up asking for bond a total of 5 times, and
Mhm.
it was denied every time.
Tried to give
Um,
up everything, the baby's passports,
yeah, the
the
mama passed, Janice Combs passport. Nobody
all I
wanted it.
mean, pinky ring. It was so much shit they had listed on the thing. Like, we'll give it
Yeah.
all to you if he can just
15
get out.
houses, yeah, didn't
Hell
and
no.
none of it was compelling to the
A
judge because again,
testicle. Yeah,
you
just everything was on there. Like, he'll give it all up. God damn.
and just remember, y'all, that was denied not because of the flight risk piece. I know a lot of people were upset about that. It was denied because there were too many believable claims, including by Don Richard slash
Mhm.
fraud, that
Mhm.
was still actively intimidating, manipulating, and causing harm to prospective victims and witnesses, even while incarcerated. That he was basically still posing a threat to the community while incarcerated, so we're definitely not gonna let him out. That's why ultimately he never got bond, y'all. So listen, May 12th, stay tuned. We will be covering it as close to gavel as we can get here on Holding Court so that y'all are up to speed on all the things, all the facts, all the analysis, and what you need to know concerning the federal prosecution of Sean Combs.
Mhm.
All right. All right, now to Young Thug. Totally different scenario here. These first of all, state charges. Y'all recall Young Thug was facing a slew. My God. I mean, he was literally facing everything up to murder, drugs, guns, and everything in between in the state of Georgia. We know
Mhm.
Fonnie Willis was leading that prosecution,
Mhm.
and that was resolved clearly by all legal accounts to a satisfactory conclusion for Young Thug. He ultimately was able to plead guilty to about 6 charges. He pleaded guilty to 1 count of participation in criminal street gang activity, 3 counts of violating Georgia Controlled Substances Act, 1 count of firearm possession during the commission of a felony, busy young man, and 1 count of possession of a machine gun. Okay. He also pled no contest to a few other things, but this is the important part, his sentence. Okay.
Mhm.
So Young Thug ultimately was sentenced to 40 years, but stand by. The judge in the case said the first 5 years are going to be what we call active. You're doing 5 years in jail. But by that point, he had already done damn near 2 years in actual, pretrial custody, we call it.
Mhm.
So she was able to credit him for time served. So that's kind of took care of the 5 years, right?
Yep.
But then she added 15 years probation, Dustin, and that's a long probationary sentence, okay, for anybody. And what she did was she hung 20 years over his head.
Mhm.
Basically, she said, if you violate your probation anytime within this next 15 years, because don't forget, it's really 40 on the books for you, sir.
Mhm.
You're going to be sent immediately back to jail. Do not pass go. And you're going to serve an active 20-year sentence in prison as of that day. So those are very high stakes. Like the way I framed it when we covered this the first time, Dustin, is like remember that game Operation?
Yeah, operation. Yes, I do. Mhm. And
Remember
it'll
me,
buzz
right.
you.
You
Yeah.
fuck up even a little bit.
Yep.
That's the situation. He is in a real life game of Operation, Dustin.
Damn.
So with that said, Georgia Prosecutor's Office, again led by Fonnie Willis, filed a motion to revoke his probation. And that is the last thing you want. During my practice of a legal career, I I was in court all the time representing my client
Mhm.
Justin on what we call probation violation hearings. So
Mhm.
that's just what it sounds like. We go into court and the probation officer and or the prosecutors have decided that they want to claim a violation has taken place, and it's my job as defense to challenge that, either that the violation didn't occur at all or that the violation is not egregious enough to
Mhm.
warrant a complete revocation of the probation, and basically, your honor, baby, please give my client another chance. That's
Right.
that's typically what it looks like.
Right.
um so Fonnie Willis and her prosecutor's office were alleging the following. They said that they wanted him revoked, as we say, and sent to jail for 20 years on site for engaging in conduct that directly threatens the safety of witnesses and prosecutors, compromises ongoing legal proceeding, and warrants immediate revocation of probation. Specifically, what are they talking about, right?
Mhm.
So Young Thug, for some godforsaken reason, decided to repost on social media. I believe the platform was X, formerly known as Twitter, which shame on you for even being on there. Anyway, he reposted on social media a photo of an investigator in the Fulton County DA's office. And every district attorney, y'all, has these investigators that work in house for them. They're essential to the office. So this particular investigator, Young Thug, posted her photo, and in the caption, it said that she is the biggest liar in the DA's office. The post went viral and amassed over 2 million views with thousands of comments and retweets. Here's also the problem. Her home address and the address of her parents were also posted publicly. And some of those posts did go as far as threatening the life and well-being of the investigator herself, her family, and apparently there were a couple of assassination threats made, of course, against Fonnie Willis, which
Mhm.
I think we all could have saw coming just because of the vitriol nature of
Right.
um, the climate shit. That's just where we are. So this actually, y'all were tagging Dustin and I like, hey, what's up with this? Is he going to be sent to jail? Honey, before we could even turn our heads quick enough, the judge said, don't even worry about it. Fulton County Superior Court Judge Paige Reese Whitaker said in an order, it was very short, just one paragraph. She issued it very quickly, saying that she is not going to revoke Young Thug's probation. I'm sure that came to much relief for Young Thug and his fan base. But she
Mhm.
did say this. So this is straight from the judge, y'all. While the court does not find that the cited social media post rises to the level of a violation of defendant's probation, it may be prudent for defendant to exercise restraint
Mm.
regarding certain topics. Yeah, I think that's important. And that's what I'm saying. It rises to the occasion. So
Mhm.
that is under, and you could be asking, well, how do we know what rises and what doesn't? That is up to the judge. That's the judge's discretion. So it just so happens that this particular judge says, I don't like that. I will be careful with that kind of social content, Mr. Williams, but I'm gonna give you a little more opportunity. I'm gonna give
Mhm.
you a little more opportunity to have some act right about you to avoid a 20-year active prison sentence. And I do think that was the right ruling. However, I would absolutely advise my client to get off of social completely. This is ridiculous.
Hell
It's not
yeah.
worth it. It's not worth it at all.
There's no reason for him to even be like, at this point, once you go through a trial as exasperating for
Sure.
everyone involved as his was, you should be putting like, you should be putting measures in place to protect yourself in that way. So if
Yep.
you know that you're at risk for the interpretation of your posts and shit
Mm-hmm.
on social media to be skewed, viewed, misconstrued,
Scrutinized.
whatever,
Yeah,
scrutinized, you know what I mean? Why not hire a social media manager, a real one, not
that's
some
it.
nigga you know to make posts and it's fine, but hire someone who really is going to apply a strategy
Right.
to protect you from this kind of shit. This is very serious.
And
And
very unnecessary.
yeah, very
Very
unnecessary.
unnecessary.
Get
Yeah.
off and let somebody handle your official promotions and
Yep.
shit connected to your work
Shows,
and
things.
stay out
Yeah.
of that. You shouldn't even want to dance that close to the edge no more. You
Because we done
shouldn't.
told you it's a real life game of
Yeah.
operation, sir, for real. So his attorney said in the court filing Thursday that the prosecutor's allegations were misleading and the rapper didn't have anything worthy of violation. Like I said, the judge agreed. Young Thug did put out a post on the same social media platform on X talking about, I don't make threats to people. I'm a good person. I would
Mhm.
never condone anything threatening anyone. or definitely participate in threatening anyone. I'm all about peace and love. Here's the issue. Obviously, I don't know Young Thug. I don't know how his mind works. But I will say this, because this kind of came up a little bit around totally different situation, not criminal at all in nature, but certainly started a lot of controversy. Remember when Kyrie Irving, was accused of the anti-Semitism, da, da, da. See, here's the issue. Sometimes these fantastic talents, right? And I'm not making excuses for them, but we see this all the time.
Yeah.
They'll post something because they like one aspect of it, right? Like, oh, I liked this thing in the movie, or oh, here's
Yes.
the photo, but not realizing they don't even have the time read the full caption. They don't have the time even understand the entirety of the post itself, and
Happens
that's how
so
you end
often.
up getting yourself in a lot of fucking trouble.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So y'all, this was a crazy ass situation in terms of the origin story of the charges. He was indicted all the way back in 2022. This did not, adjudicate
Mhm.
until a full 2 years later. I mean, I think it stands on record as the longest trial in Georgia state history in terms of from indictment to actually getting to resolution.
For sure.
Took 'em forever to see the jury. I mean, it was ridiculous. We saw Young Thug go, into 15 different sizes of suits, I mean, my goodness.
His way
We had
did balloon while he was in
we
jail,
had
didn't it?
big
Yeah.
Luther, little Luther,
We did.
medium
We
Luther,
seen it changes, okay?
you
He
know,
turned into look at me, okay? I am
for real.
changed. He turned into Effie,
Lock
didn't he?
up, Dustin.
Yeah. It was a lot.
It was a lot. So if I and see, here's what's interesting, to your point, right? Like, if you go through that much, you would think, reasonable minds would think, you would sit down somewhere, twiddle your thumbs, and mind your fucking business, right?
Hello, be happy to be out the bullshit.
But what I find for some reason with many individuals, especially these, larger than life types, they take the kind of avoiding the worst possible fate by the skin of my teeth as the opposite initiative.
Mhm.
They take that as I can go further.
Mhm.
I can do the most now. I am untouchable.
Are you crazy? Are you crazy? You're not untouchable. You're so available to be touched at that point. You've never been more accessible.
No, and it's the truth. Y'all
Yeah.
better listen to Uncle D on that one. So that's it on that. The judge absolutely still has that 20-year leash on him, and he better keep it cute. And as Dustin would say, keep it real player, because
That's right.
if the judge wakes up on the other side of the bed next time on any given day, it's 20 years on site.
That's right.
All right, y'all. We're going to be back in court, in session, doing what we do. We love to do it.
Yes,
In the
we do.
meantime, if you're congested like me during this transitional season, whatever the hell is going on outside of with the weather and the antihistamines and shit,
Okay.
protect yourself, juice up, vitamin up, do all the things. And what would you like people to do, Dustin?
Read your terms and read your conditions, please.
Holding Court is produced by Uppity Productions. Host and executive producers here, Ebony K. Williams, yours truly, and the Dustin Ross. Executive producer in Dossie, McCraw. We've also got our senior producer, Ashley Hobbs. And follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any and everywhere you get your podcast.